Back in the day, the BMW X5 was the flagship for the brand. But today, not so much with the X7, iX, and XM. However, the X5 still remains as being one of the best-selling models here in the US. Now, conventional wisdom would suggest that since the X5 is no longer the flagship, it would take a bit of a backseat to the X7. But that just isn't the case for BMW, as they decided to give the same treatment the X7 got with the X5 for 2024 and the LCI facelift. In this video, we're going to go over everything about the new X5. Take a look at the exterior, the interior, check out the driving dynamics, and also see why, if you are looking at buying a mid-sized luxury crossover and you want something that's classy, upscale, but also fun to drive, then maybe taking a look at the 2024 BMW X5 might be a great decision. Now, before we get in this video, I want to give a huge shout and thank you to BMW Sudbury in Sudbury, Massachusetts for allowing me to do this review. Their link will be in the description below so you can check out their extensive BMW inventory. Also, before we get started, make sure to hit the subscribe button and click the notification bell so you're notified every time a new video goes live on the channel. And so, without wasting any further time, let's get right in this review. When BMW decides to give their models a mid-cycle refresh, it often goes far beyond what you see at first glance. To maintain its place in the mid-size luxury crossover market, it was necessary for the X5 to undergo a transformation in one way or another, where it not only remains modern and sleek, but the overall ownership experience matches and possibly outcompetes rivals in every metric. For almost 25 years, the BMW X5 has been looked to as being a sophisticated two-row crossover that not only offers premium luxury, but impeccable performance, whether it's the 40i, M60i, or X5M. And now with some substantial updates, BMW's reign in this segment could very well continue for the foreseeable future. Starting off with pricing, the BMW X5 for 2024 comes in with a base cost of $67,500. And while being one of the more expensive crossovers in this market compared to a base Volvo XC90 and Genesis GV80, you'll be quick to find out that the ultimate driving machine is offering an enhanced ownership experience over the pre-LCI model. Being underpinned by the same chassis as last year, there's no changes to the exterior dimensions, and just like the X7, all the updates center around the exterior design, interior technology, and also the powertrain to make the X5 a more appealing mid-size crossover in this ever-evolving market. Standard for all X5 xDrive 40i models, you'll have 8.7 inches of ground clearance, which should be more than enough to handle winter road conditions, and possibly some light off-roading. However, even with the plastic cladding around the fenders and wheel arches, you might not be so eager to get this crossover dirty. For 2024, the new appearance for the X5 is unquestionably a head-turner, where much like the rest of the lineup, the LCI is more aggressive and dynamic, and you see that with the more pronounced body lines and aesthetics. While not equipped on our model today, the grills can be illuminated through either the M Sport Professional package or as a $500 add-on, following in the footsteps as its larger sibling. However, the brushed aluminum accents on a standard X5 keeps this crossover looking classy. You've also probably noticed that the headlight housings have been reshaped and thinned out, similar to the X3, but not to the same extent as the X7. Lastly, the front bumper has been slightly remolded, with a more squared-off design, adding some symmetry to the front fascia. Moving over to the side profile, this X5 is sitting on the optional 20-inch wheels wrapped in all-season tires, but 21 and 22-inch wheels are available with new designs. When it pertains to the ride quality, no surprises, as the X5 suspension absorbs the imperfections in the road very nicely. But it should be worth noting that with the plug-in hybrid model, standard air suspension will heighten your sense of comfort even more. On this X5, we have the $400 aluminum side boards allowing easier access to the interior. And part of the facelift are the more aggressive air breathers mounted on the side, taking on a more pronounced look. You'll have body color folding side mirrors, with turn signal indicators, to go along with blind spot detection for added safety. Then coming around to the back, the most notable cosmetic enhancement will be the LED taillights, with BMW's new X motif that will likely become a signature look for the brand in the upcoming years. For the rest of the rear fascia, for the most part, it goes untouched, where the rear diffuser for 2024 takes on a slightly different shape. Unlike crosstown rival Audi, the exhaust outlets you see are in fact functional, giving the X5 some sporty qualities. As mentioned earlier, since the LCI update doesn't alter dimensions, the rest of the road presence and small aesthetics will be identical to last year's model. Under the hood, the BMW X5 is powered by a revised B58 3-liter inline 6-cylinder engine, now producing 375 horsepower and 383 pound-feet of torque, both of which are healthy increases in performance compared to last year. And as always, this powertrain is paired with a ZF 8-speed automatic transmission. Also aiding this power plant is a 48-volt mild hybrid system, affecting performance, refinement, and overall efficiency. While BMW claims the X5 can go from 0 to 60 in around 5.3 seconds, it does feel quicker on its feet than the pre-LCI model we had featured a few years ago. And despite not being the most agile or athletic in terms of cornering, BMW is offering a balanced crossover that on occasion can put a smile on your face on a twisty back road. Our model today does have BMW's xDrive all-wheel drive system, but rear-wheel drive does come standard. And for fuel economy, you're looking at right around 23 miles per gallon in the city and 27 miles per gallon on the highway. Stepping inside, the X5 basically has an all-new interior, receiving updates to the digital gauge cluster, infotainment system, dashboard, center console, and even the standard seating upholstery. 2024 ushers in BMW's all-new Sensafin leatherette material, which feels like genuine leather, to provide an optimal amount of comfort. However, merino leather is optional. As part of the Climate Comfort package, you get contoured, ventilated, and heated seats, along with a heated steering wheel and even heated armrests to keep you warm during the winter. Continuing on with the theme of being premium and upscale, standard, the Sensafin leatherette upholstery is stitched on the dashboard to offer softer touch materials throughout the cabin. And as time progresses, you begin to notice that the X5 has received design elements from the recently refreshed X7. Getting into the technology that's been updated for 2024, you have an all-new digital gauge cluster that's now found in all LCI facelifted BMWs for 2023. More intuitive than last year, by using the dial and buttons mounted on the steering wheel, you can fully customize what you see in front of you and what information is being displayed at any given time. Each drive mode also comes with its own theme, with Sport mode incentivizing you to have some fun with the X5. From this screen, you can also adjust the head-up display, such as its positioning, layout, and the amount of information being shown to you. Then moving over to the infotainment system, the X5 now has a 14-inch touchscreen, with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto compatibility to go along with onboard navigation. Spending an additional $875 gets you the upgraded Harman Kardon surround sound system to amplify the audio of your favorite music, which we do not have on this model today. Familiar if you've owned BMWs in the past, there will be quick access buttons and a rotary dial mounted on the center console to efficiently get you to different menus or scroll through the onboard apps. As we saw with the X7, all your climate controls are now placed on the head unit with a dedicated menu, where on demand you can adjust the temperature for both the driver and passenger and activate the heated steering wheel and heated and ventilated seats. A classy touch, which doesn't show on camera unfortunately, is the ambient lighting that now illuminates part of the dashboard that we saw with the X7 and iX, bringing some of the qualities and attributes found in the flagship to the X5. You'll have front, rear, and top view cameras with trajectory to help you park this crossover, giving you some much needed visibility in tight spots. Then beneath the user interface, There will be a row of buttons for the volume, tuning, and front and rear defrosters. And then as we make our way towards the center console, you'll have a wireless phone charging pad, a USB input, and a cubby for an additional smartphone. One minor alteration if you're coming from an older X5 is the gear shifter, but everything else mostly remains the same. For the center storage compartment, you'll have plenty of room for smaller items. And rounding out the front seating area, above is a panoramic moonroof, which will let in a lot of natural light to the interior. Now moving on to the second row, we're going to sit off on the passenger side. And this seat has been adjusted most of the way back and is somewhat on a recline. And I have plenty of legroom here. Now, I'm not the tallest person out there. I'm around 5'5". However, let's take a look at legroom dimensions for the X5 for 2024. With 37.4 inches, it falls right in line with the Volvo XC90, Acura MDX, Genesis GV80, and other mid-sized luxury crossovers in this market. The difference here, though, with the X5 is that it has a higher roofline, and that's a traditional design for the X5 throughout the generations. Even with the massive panoramic moonroof, I don't think you'll need to worry about hitting your head on the headliner if you're on the height of 6 feet tall or above, which is fantastic to see. And that is one key difference compared to the BMW X3. But let's find out about the width and if you can fit a third person in the second row. Now, moving on to the center seat, you are going to have some great placements for your feet. There is a small little lip for the center hump, but that won't take away from legroom at all. Since the X5 is wider than the X3, this is where I find the X5 to be more family friendly. You can definitely have a third person sitting in the center, whether it's an average size adult or a third child, and this right here is really the incentive to upgrade from the X3. There's plenty of shoulder room, even though I'm sitting back here by myself, but still very spacious and very conducive if you do have a bigger family. And finally, taking a look at the driver's side, this seat is adjusted to someone of my height, around 5'5", and I have plenty of legroom here where I can just sit back, relax, and enjoy the driving experience. And you're going to hear me talk about the Sense of Fin leatherette upholstery quite a bit throughout this review, but very premium and also very comfortable as well. And what I do notice is that the second row seating area, these seats do provide a good amount of support. Also back here, you will have 2 rear air vents to go along with climate control, heated outboard seats, 2 USB-C inputs, and a 12-volt outlet. You also have an additional USB-C input mounted on the backs of the front seats. And rounding out the second row seating area, you do get a center armrest with 2 cup holders. Now, coming around to the back, you're going to receive a power liftgate. But with the X5, you have a dual action tailgate. And what this allows you to do is that if you do have heavier items, you can slide everything right into the X5 so that way you don't scratch the paint on your vehicle. Also, for me as a cameraman, I was able to use this as a table to balance my gimbal. But inside, behind the second row seats, you're looking at right around 33.9 cubic feet of room, which is identical to last year's model. Since the LCI is only a cosmetic facelift for the exterior and interior, there's no difference for exterior and interior dimensions. Now, you have plenty of room when you are going on a road trip with the family, or maybe you're going skiing and snowboarding up in the mountains. I was able to fit all my camera gear today, so it's 2 bags of camera gear, a gimbal box, and a tripod, and could have stacked on even more items or gone grocery shopping. I think you could definitely fit probably 7, 8, possibly even more bags of luggage back here, which is really great to see, and also one of the reasons why I do recommend going with the X5 if you do have a family and you're constantly going on those road trips, because it's going to be more practical than the X3. Then with the second row seats folded, you're looking at right around 72 cubic feet of room, once again falling in line with most vehicles in this market. So if you are looking for a luxury crossover that's a bit more conducive for your lifestyle, I think the X5 is definitely going to be the way to go. Also, of course, you will have a rear cargo cover, which will keep all your valuable items out of sight. So if you are like me and you have expensive camera gear or anything else of value, you can leave them back here and have the peace of mind knowing that no one will be able to peek in and steal what you have. And then once you're done, just press the button and the liftgate will close automatically. Alright, so we're taking a look at the 2024 BMW X5. This is the first time I'm driving this vehicle in 3 years. My long-term subscribers, you can correct me on this. I believe the last time I filmed the X5, it was a 2020 model which did not have the 48-volt mild hybrid system. So I want to see what the 48-volt
brings to the table and how it improves the X5's overall efficiency and performance. Now, I've already gone over the exterior and the interior, but I really want to say this, that the X5 today in 2024 is getting very close in design, but also refinement to the X7. Now, of course, the X5 was the flagship crossover for BMW for many years, and now it's the X7, and it's only natural that the X5 takes on those same similarities and characteristics that the X7 is giving you. But one thing I like about this vehicle here is that when you compare it to other mid-size crossovers in this price range and market, I feel the X5 feels more upscale and more premium than some of the competitors out there. Now, one thing that the X5 has going for it is that the base powertrain is the B58 and is paired with the ZF 8-speed automatic transmission. Other competitors are coming in with 4 cylinders, and then you're paying extra for the 6-cylinder or V6. I've always felt with the X5, when you compare it to its closest rivals such as the Mercedes-Benz GLE, but also the Audi Q7, that the X5 has a bit more of a sportier DNA to it. It's a bit more agile, a bit more enjoyable to drive. Now, one thing that is really interesting about the X5 and other BMWs I've noticed over the past year or so is that steering has gotten a bit lighter. Now, of course, I'm not driving the M Sport model today, so we're not going to have some of those sportier aesthetics and have that sportier design to it, but I am a bit surprised that steering is a bit more on the looser end, but it is still quick to respond. Now, with this revised inline 6-cylinder engine, what I notice is that with the X5, it performs so much nicer than it did before. With an additional 40 horsepower, and you have around 398 pound-feet of torque thanks to the 48-volt mild hybrid system, this is a very quick crossover that if you aren't looking for the M60, you're not looking for something that's really going to put you back in your seat, but you still want an SUV that's responsive and enjoyable to drive, the xDrive 40i for 2024, in my mind, is certainly a great option, but also, even with this revised B58, it's an upgrade in and of itself if you are hopping in from, say, a 2020 model year X5 and you love this platform and you love what this vehicle is providing. And that's what I'm talking about with this inline 6-cylinder engine. You can get around slower drivers with ease, and the ZF 8-speed shifts so smoothly. And of course, a lot of competitors in this market, some of them are not using that ZF 8-speed, like the Volvo XC90 or the Genesis GV80, and that's where I think the BMW X5 makes a huge difference. Because sure, there have been some new competitors in this market that are wowing us when it comes to maybe the interior quality, but what BMW is giving you here with the X5 and just an xDrive 40i is a crossover that is going to respond far better. It's going to be quicker off the line, and BMW claims that 0 to 60 times are around 5.3 seconds, but Car and Driver, when they had test driven the pre-facelift model, they got a 0 to 60 time around 4.8. So BMW tends to underrate their performance, and I think the X5 for 2024 is very quick. This feels quicker than 5.3. Another focal point for 2024 is that BMW is now using the SensaFin leatherette upholstery, not only for the seats, but also parts of the dashboard as well, which really elevates the driving experience of this crossover. Now, I personally like the Sensatech seats, but SensaFin seems to be a bit higher quality and really fits the X5 more so than in the past, and even for other vehicles in the BMW lineup. You see that with the upholstery for the seats, and even the bolstering. It's really good, it's really firm, and it does keep you in place. Now, since the 2024 model is no different than the 2023 in terms of the platform it's built on, and also the exterior styling when it comes to just the A-pillars, C-pillars, and what you see behind you, overall vision is exactly the same as the pre-LCI facelift. So the A-pillars are actually very thin for a crossover in this market. When you take a look at your side mirrors, they are placed in a good spot. They're a little bit thinner, a little more aerodynamic, but I can't see what's in my blind spots. And taking a look behind me, even with the headrest in the way, I can still see the vehicle directly behind me, so a lot of vision here. Also, another thing too, and this is a bit of a surprise because you don't look at BMW in this way, is that ground clearance for the xDrive 40i is 8.7 inches. Now that's actually really good for this segment, especially for a crossover that you wouldn't look at as being an off-road oriented vehicle. And because of that, you have a nice high seating position where you can see everything in front of you. You have a nice commanding feel and presence over the roadways, which really adds to the safety that the X5 is providing. Also, another thing too, and I've noticed this with BMWs lately, is that with their head-up display, very easy to read, but also BMW is trying to have your eyes focus on the road ahead rather than screens. And because with the 14-inch touchscreen and also the 12-inch digital gauge cluster, it is a bit more at eye level. So I don't really need to look down at all. I can keep my eyes focused on the roadways. And even though it has taken some time to get used to the iDrive 8 system over the iDrive 7, I do like it. It does fit a vehicle in this price range and also for a crossover for the 2024 model. So I have put the BMW X5 in sport mode. I want to see what the driving dynamics are like and if it changes up at all. And one thing I have noticed immediately is that the powertrain is more responsive and the throttle response is certainly more sports inspiring. Now steering does tighten up a bit. Now maybe I'm just used to driving M performance models all the time where you have the thicker steering wheel, you have the stiffer suspension, and I'm just not used to the lighter steering anymore. But I noticed that with the X5 is that the steering is somewhat light, but this would be, in my opinion, suitable for somebody who is not looking for performance. This is for somebody who is looking for a family crossover, and that's what the X5 is giving you, while at the same time still having the performance that will outmatch and outcompete other vehicles in this market. What is a bit surprising too is that the X5 feels very light on its feet. And while there is some body roll in the corners, it's very agile and athletic for what it is. Now, of course, if you're looking for something just a bit more, go with the M60. But as a daily driver, and when you compare this to like the Volvo XC90 that's in front of us, or even some of the Japanese rivals like the Infiniti QX60 and Lexus RX 350, this is so much more enjoyable to drive. It's totally worth paying extra for. Because even though you're going to say, well, you're paying about $10,000 to $15,000 extra, but take a look at what you're getting. You're getting a more potent powertrain. You're getting, in my mind, a better interior. But also, even though some people will say that the iDrive 8 system is a bit foreign to what BMW is offering because it is different, it's very different than what we've seen from the iDrive 7, this just seems to be like a driving environment you would expect in the middle portion of the 2020s. Whereas other competitors are trying to keep up with what the Germans are offering, such as Audi and Mercedes-Benz. But with Mercedes-Benz, I noticed that, especially with the GLE, it is getting up there in age. Whereas the X5, this does feel like a lot of competitors in this market, while still giving you a driving environment that you would expect at around $70,000. On the brakes, very responsive. Little body roll there, but wow. Wow. And remember guys, this is the xDrive 40i. This would be considered the base X5. So just imagine what the M60 is going to give you this year for 2024. This is fantastic for really an entry X5. So ultimately, after this quick test drive, I'm pretty impressed. Now, of course, I think the mild hybrid system is doing quite a bit when it comes to performance, the smoothness of the accelerations. Also, the ZF8 speed has been retuned slightly to give you smoother gear shifts. And just overall, it feels very well refined. That's one thing I have noticed with BMWs that have the 48-volt mild hybrid system. Yeah, they have been somewhat electrified. It's not a full electric model or even a plug-in hybrid, but it definitely has some electric tendencies where it just feels too smooth. Now, you do get some pushback in your seat, but still, that's probably not what you're looking for with the X5, at least for the xDrive 40i. But still, this is an all-around great performing crossover, and everything you would expect from a BMW product. So to wrap up my time with the 2024 BMW X5, what are my final thoughts and takeaways for BMW's midsize luxury crossover? When I take a look at the LCI models throughout the BMW family, I do see a significant refresh. But the X5, it really seems to me it's gone a little bit further than that. Where even though the X5 is no longer the flagship per se, it got the same treatment as the X7, as the dashboard comes right out of that 3-row crossover, and I see other styling cues from the iX as well, which really means a lot to me, as I remember the first X5 that came out back in 1999. So I'm really glad to see that BMW is still giving this vehicle the recognition and development it deserves. The new 14-inch touchscreen and also the full digital gauge cluster, specifically the digital gauge cluster, I find to be more intuitive than what we saw on pre-facelift models, but also the iDrive 8 user interface is really fitting for a vehicle in this price range and market. What I also like about this vehicle is that the driving environment is very classy and upscale, and even though this is just the xDrive 40i and it's not fully equipped either, I feel like I'm getting a lot for the price here, especially at around $70,000. And even though these are not merino leather seats, the Sensafin leatherette upholstery, I've talked about this a number of times throughout this review, I think feels very high quality and also very supportive, which is great to see, especially if you don't want to spend a little extra for those merino leather seats. But then when it comes to the driving experience, personally, I'm a bit surprised that the steering is rather light because I am used to BMWs having a heavier steering. Now, of course, I do think that is to counterbalance the weight of the X5, and I've noticed that recently with other BMWs such as the X7 and the iX, where they are going with a bit more of a lighter steering that's still agile and very responsive, but it's not that stiffer feel that we do normally see from M Sport models, but even non-M Sport models that I've reviewed in the past, such as the 330i, but also even the X330i. All in all, for 2024, the LCI facelift is rather substantial for this model, as you can see from the exterior where it's more modernized and upscale, but also the driving environment is more enticing as well. And comparing this to other vehicles in this market and segment, such as the Volvo XC90, Genesis GV80, and Mercedes-Benz GLE, to name a few, I think you're going to find that the BMW X5 is more well-rounded, where it's not just luxurious, but it's also fun to drive as well, and having the B58 motor under the hood certainly helps in that regard. So guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe for more. Also make sure to follow me on Instagram at Boston Autoblog so you can see what I'm up to and what vehicles I'll be featuring in the future. And I will see you guys next time.